Morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Let's nip over quickly to Bayelsa State and find out what the activities are there. Yes, there are a couple of challenges. Where isn't there a couple of challenges anywhere in the country? Because of that, we'll seize the opportunity of our conversation this morning to talk about Governor Diri's community-based crime prevention strategy, and also the fact that the National Sports Commission has just visited the place, well, recently, and that's because Bayelsa State is in the runnings. It's actually bidding to host a major sports event. Well, our guest is Dr. Everada Don Abednego. Dr. Abednego is a technical advisor, the technical advisor on communications and strategy to the Bayelsa State Governor, Senator Diri. Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me here.
Our pleasure. Well, as I was saying, there is no state where we don't have one challenge or the other, but it would appear that the security one is being taken quite seriously by the governor, because I see that over the period, intermittently, go back to about 4 or 5 years, which is the extent of your principal's administration. It has been launched, relaunched, and here we are again. So maybe you'd use this opportunity, Doctor, to sort of tell us how far the security enhancing measures have progressed in Bayelsa.
Yeah, okay. I think it's important to mention that a couple of years back, I was on set with you down in Lagos, and I did assure you and Nigerians and listeners across the world that Diri has come to renegotiate with the people of the states or the imperative need for us to continue and to sustain the very peace and tranquil environment that we'll be able to plant on ground. And I did say that when he wins, and he is going to win, not if he wins, it's going to be much more peaceful moments for Bayelsa State.
Yes.
And what we have today on ground is a reflection of exactly what I did mention then. We have a state that is, of course, today the right place for every Ijaw man, all Bayelsans, either in Nigeria or in diaspora. They are proud to say this is our state. The reason being that we understand what is happening in our country today, regrettably so. Virtually every front of this country today is bedeviled with a lot of security challenges, and we understand, though, the federal government and security agencies are doing all they can, but the situation is not abating to the way Nigerians want. But there is a state in this country today called Bayelsa State. Though we are quite a small state in terms of number, but in terms of the peace and tranquility that stands today as the pride of the country is what everyone should be proud of. And indeed, from Mr. President to the citizens of this country, security operators and merchandising experts in crime management and all whatnot, the story is that of a state that has made the right investment in terms of security. What have we been able to do? We realize that here in this country, crime fighting is largely a responsibility of conventional security men. There in Bayelsa State, the people show ownership and responsibility, and not just because of a desire. The governor came in and decided to discuss with the people purely on security. And the decision of the people was very clear. They said, look, if we have peace, then development can be possible. And of course, that is a universal principle, that for you to get it right in security, in development first, you must look at crime fighting. And that's why in Bayelsa State today, we have been able to initiate a community-based security paradigm that is so effective that we are not just saying it politically, but security managers in the state, nationally, from National Security Officers, Security Advisors Office, the President himself, and of course, all security managers in the country allude to the fact that Bayelsa State is getting it right in security, not because the soldiers or police officers are carrying more armor than every other person or any other state. No, it's because the people have come to, one, walk away from crime, number two, believe that the protection of lives and property, the preservation of their lives is first their responsibility before the responsibility of government. And of course, the government has come to show leadership to ensure that everybody, there is an uncommon synergy that is being woven between the people, security agencies, and of course, all of us. It is working, and we can tell you for free that in Bayelsa State, the stories we're hearing from far and near in the country are not the same in Bayelsa State. Here in Bayelsa State, there are the stories of encomiums, people saying this is plausible, security officers giving taps on the chest of the governor, and the governor hitting pants with them and say, look, we are getting it right. The question is, are you listening to this program? Are you a Bayesan who is another part of this country, or you're out of this country? Remember, things are so peaceful in Bayelsa State. It's not business as usual. And that is why today we are also saying the rippling effect is going positively to the national aspect, because the peace in Bayelsa State is rubbing it on the entire Niger Delta, and by far there is an increase in production of oil, and that is a major source of revenue for this country. Where there is peace in Bayelsa State, there is peace in the Niger Delta, and by implication, the oil revenue is yielding the very base for this country. And Mr. President did say that he's working towards getting 2 million barrels per day or more. It is possible with Bayelsa State if only we sustain it. And ours is not about if. It is going to be sustained, because that is what is putting food on the table and making the government to drive critical infrastructure for the prosperity of our people.
Thank you. What was the insecurity picture of the state that has now apparently been overcome, as you have said? I mean, was it more of kidnapping? Was it more of robbery, even though it's a thing of the past now?
Yeah, I think all Nigerians and globally, people know that the Niger Delta is largely notorious for, crico-terrorist activities, kidnapping of expatriates, pipeline vandalization, kidnap of even, natives of this country, nationals of this country. What we have today is quite different. In fact, it's a complete walk away from that. Expatriates in the Niger Delta, particularly in Bayelsa today, you can go without security protection, and of course you can carry out your responsibilities for the interests of this country, for our state, and for the universe. Look, in Bayelsa State, nobody wants to hear the story of kidnapping anymore. It is, however, true that a couple of months ago, some funny idiots tried to undermine the peace and tranquility of the state by taking away a very respected, honorable justice of the High Court in Bayelsa State. And we saw all what happened then. Every household, every person in Bayelsa State, security agencies, teachers, community leaders, opinion leaders, even religious organizations held hands together, and they said, no, we'll not accept this. And so it was quite a responsibility that's bestowed on everyone out of conscience. It was so spontaneous. And what happens? He was released, and professionally so. And because there was application of technology, which is part of what the Bayelsa State government has been able to do in collaborating with security agencies, particularly the Nigeria Police Force, by ensuring that we use science and technology to monitor the movement of these funny folks who try to undermine the peace and security of the state, and to also ensure that every citizen who had a dot of information was able to do that freely to security agencies. And the monitoring and evaluation of the situation led to the simple and hitch-free release of that distinguished justice without payment of ransom or fatalities or injuries whatsoever. That is why we're saying in Bayelsa State today, crime fighting has become the responsibility of all persons. It does not matter what you do in Bayelsa State, whether you're doing business, whether you're a civil servant, whether you're working within the multinational companies in Bayelsa State. What we know and what we believe is that let the state be peaceful. When the state is peaceful, the entire structures of the substructures of society will just key in. And that is why we're happy people today in Bayelsa State. The peace has enabled the government to reprofile the educational sector of the state, taking education to the level, look at the health profiling of the state to ensure that there's health coverage for all families, not minding whether you're a fisherman, a canoe carver, you're a teacher, a policeman, or whoever you are in Bayelsa State. The health insurance scheme of Bayelsa State covers everyone, not just coverage, but coverage that takes care of virtually every health challenge. And that is what we believe that, look, when we have a peaceful Nigeria, we're going to have development. In Bayelsa State, we are using that as a litmus test for this country. Let all states in this country toe the Bayelsa strategy in crime fighting by ensuring that you weave in the requisite nexus between the people and security agencies. And of course, it's working here in Bayelsa State. And the government is showing a zero tolerance, not in political terms, by ensuring that there's no interference. And we continue to provide the requisite support for all security agencies to ensure that they don't just have land vehicles and watercrafts, but we'll also use science and technology by taking over the airspace of Bayelsa State to view and to monitor virtually everything that happens, both in and out, that is talking about entry and exit points. It's working in Bayelsa State. Every security agency, organizations in Bayelsa State who wants to have their own personnel work in Bayelsa. Why? Because the place is peaceful, and the officers and men of the security agencies will go to work and come back home very safely, and the reports are very good because crime reportage in Bayelsa State is at its very lowest ebb because things are working here.
Most of what you've spoken about just now, does that entail what is the community-based aspect of crime prevention that Governor Diri is pursuing? Because there's an emphasis on community-based crime prevention strategy.
Yeah, if you look at what we're doing in Bayelsa State, we realize that in Nigeria, crime fighting is largely the responsibility of the conventional security agencies led by the Nigeria Police Force. Okay. But I think in Bayelsa State, we'll have a different pattern. Of course, it also alludes to the fact that there are these clarion calls from all sides of the divide in the country that community policing is all that we need to ensure that we have a safer Nigeria for all persons. There in Bayelsa State, and indeed here in Bayelsa State, what we have when we say community-based crime fighting is about the people. The emphasis is about the people. The people first before we talk about what the conventional security agencies can do. The question is, how many police officers are there to cover the over 250 million Nigerians, a few hundreds of thousand policemen? So definitely the number is not comparable to anything that can yield results, and much so. We understand that security agencies in this country, largely, especially the police, largely are in gross lack of equipment and logistics for them to carry out duties. But life preservation is very important, and that's why in Bayelsa State, all persons, men, women, youth leaders, the Joint National Congress, the Joint Youth Council, opinion leaders, the political class, youth organizations, everyone believes that it's time for us to embrace peace. It's time for us to show ownership and responsibility. That is why the governor decided to introduce what we call the Bayelsa Volunteer Security Outfit. We don't carry arms. What they do is purely information gathering. They gather information from neighborhoods, from households, from all environment, and they pass the information to very impeccable sources. And the police officers in Bayelsa State and the DSS, they've been able to demonstrate high quality to ensure that persons who give them information are protected. And this number of young folks, both men and women, boys and girls in the Bayelsa volunteer outfit are doing fantastic jobs. They are paid by the government. And of course, in every community in the state, that is what they do. And alongside the Bayelsa State Peace and Safety Corps, where we also have these guys working hand in hand with security agencies by also procuring information and assisting police and security organizations to get to areas that where ordinarily you'll find it difficult for Nigeria security agencies to get to. Look, there is no place in Bayelsa State that is not accessible today, whether it's a riverine place or upland. Remember, Bayelsa State is largely a riverine state, but in all the nooks and crannies of the state, our boys and brothers, sons and daughters of the land, from those communities, we know where a kidnapper can stay. We know where an armed robber can stay. We know where a drug addict can stay. And if you are staying in those places, what we've been able to demonstrate as a people in Bayelsa State is to ensure that those informations are given to security agencies. And one thing that is so paramount about the crime fighting strategy in Bayelsa State is the emphasis on a near zero kinetic arrangement. Everything boils down to the strategy of using civil moments, civil opportunities, apparatus, models to get to those sources, and it has been so fluid and fantastic. It's working, it's sustainable, but though it's draining the resources of the state, but the Bayelsans and the people of the state are telling the governor, not minding what it's taking the state to do this, continue to do it, because with peace, the other phases of development are realizable, and that's what the governor is doing in Bayelsa State. So crime fighting with the community strategy in Bayelsa State is yielding dividends. I will continue to hold on to that.
You know, that's gratifying to hear. You spoke about the Bayelsa Volunteer Outfit and also about the Peace and Safety Corps. Are those two different organizations, or are they alternative names for the same? And I note that unlike Ebubeagu or what is there, that people in different states are naming their security outfits. I haven't heard of any indigenous names. Is it that you say, look, leave all of that to one side, let's concentrate on the job?
I think one thing that is so good about the job people is the belief they have in themselves, and all that belief is built into an uncommon patriotism. The Ijaws are very patriotic people, and when an Ijaw man demonstrates patriotism, he gives even his life to protect the society, the community, and the tribe he comes from. The Bayelsa Volunteer Security Outfit is purely a civil organization, but they are well trained by the DSS, and there has always been a background check of folks who are engaged into this business, because you can't be a lover of crime and you say you want to work to procure information relatively to crime fighting. That is not done. And so, to put it straight, these are young folks who have been properly x-rayed and found to be worthy to demonstrate uncommon patriotism and service to the state. We also, and of course, that organization is led by a very young, articulate-minded person, High Chief Lucky Sanakpo. I think by essence, and Ijaws are very proud of him, because areas in Yenagoa that were not possible to claim that it's a state capital, all those places are very peaceful. You don't need to work with your handset, being in your pocket. You can dangle it even at the middle of the night. And all parts of the state, all those who used to do pickpocketing and cult-related activities, they just melted away into the thin air. The reason being that what you're doing is being watched, and you'll be in your house, and the police officer will knock the door and say, we want to have you. And politely, all the neighbors there, because they are interwired with this desire, this patriotism, to provide information to the crime-fighting organization, they take you away. And the next thing they hear, you're in court. And if you're found guilty, don't ask me. The governor does not have boys who are criminal-minded in the state. In Bayelsa State, crime fighting enjoys a zero tolerance from government. So what we do in Bayelsa State is the government is showing leadership by ensuring that we don't only provide the nexus for operations, but we ensure that we don't get involved in the crime fighting maneuvers purely for crime enforcement organizations, law and justice. Now, the other organization is the Bayelsa State Peace Safety Corps. It is headed by a retired General Angaye. He's doing a fantastic job. And if you see what those guys are doing, sometimes you watch them and say, are the police handing over their responsibilities to these guys? And the answer is no. What they've been able to do is to properly synergize. And so these guys go into those areas where everyone knows that they are natives. They know that these guys are part of the community. They wear their uniform. And sometimes they're just working, and somebody will just call them to their telephone numbers are littered in all fronts in our household and state. And what they do is they just get information, send it to Brigadier General Angaye. They sit with the police and the security agencies on their situation room, and don't ask me. As soon as the situation is reported, the drones that are, they have inundated the airspace in Bayelsa State, like I said, nowhere you can commit a crime and go scot-free. And they will just monitor you. And if they think you can leave your house because a report has been made against you, they will be monitored and it will just be picked. It's a fantastic idea that is working. So it is not like the ones here, there are Motekus and the other ones. So fantastic. It's part of the drive this country has for community policing. But in Bayelsa State, we are saying it for free. If Nigeria wants to operate through community policing, they need to set much more security managers in all states of the Federation down to Bayelsa State to ask Governor Diri, how did he do it? Bayelsa State did that used to be the boiling point of this country, and that did affected virtually
We're sorry about that. We're going to be back as soon as possible. This indeed is exciting news coming out of Bayelsa, considering, as we were just hearing there from the technical advisor on communications and strategy to Governor Diri, Bayelsa State. As soon as he comes back, he'll just clarify some. Okay, you're back. Okay, you just went away momentarily, so it's good to have you back. Now, the other thing I could, well, from what you said, and thank you very much, because it's an exciting picture, because Bayelsa used to be plagued by cult violence, piracy, I beg your pardon, piracy, and attacks on infrastructures. it does seem to me that those are becoming like distant times and seen through a rear view mirror. Cult violence and piracy. Talk about that, and then, if you will, maybe you can also talk a bit about attacks on infrastructure. But the one thing that all that you've said has shown us is that there seems to be a very close buy-in between the people, these organizations, and government, of course, who is initiating all of this. Okay,
I think it's important to mention that crime, thrives in areas where the society becomes very tolerant about crime and criminality. Any society that becomes intolerant to crime and criminality, crime cannot thrive in those areas. And in Bayelsa State, like I did say a moment ago, everyone in Bayelsa State, except those few who believe that peace isn't a good thing, and such persons are always shamed. Such persons are always reported to security organizations. Such persons have been monitored by every person. Look, for there to be kidnapping in any environment, the kidnapped environment must be within those communities, within those localities. And the people go to farms, the people go for fishing. And so from the contours of the creeks and the seas down to the lands where people do farming, our people have access to those areas. And therefore, if you think you want to manipulate the system by ensuring you build a camp for kidnapping or a camp for other terrorist-related activities, in Bayelsa State it's not going to work, because everyone is assisting government and assisting security organizations to monitor the situation. Now, you talked about whether or not these crimes that were hitherto known for, taking place in Bayelsa State, like creek terrorism, talking about kidnapping, sea piracy, pipeline vandalization or destruction of critical assets of government. Those are stories of the past. You see, look, when a government becomes a people's government, then you must adhere to the principles of good governance.
Mm-hmm.
The first principle of good governance is inclusivity. In Bayelsa State, we don't fight crime on the basis of partisanship. You don't need to be a member of PDP, Labour Party, APC, or whatever party you want to be. First, you have to be a Bayelsan. You have to be an Ijaw. So the Ijaw mentality is about preservation of lives of all citizens. For you to be safe, for your family to be safe, the society must be safe, the community must be safe. And that is why the governor has been able to show leadership to ensure that he weaves in every person, all the broken bridges that were hitherto taken away, that supposedly they should be binding the people and the police together in crime fighting. They have been rebuilt. That confidence has been restored. And we're ensuring that, look, police officers, security agencies enjoy an uncommon respect and honor in Bayelsa State. It does not mean that they are the best police officers you can find anywhere in the country. No. But because the state has come to see that, look, we can't be safer if we don't show them an uncommon love and appreciation. And so the collaboration between the security agencies, the community people, it's about leadership. And we're talking about a transparent system.
Indeed. I beg your pardon, Dr. Abednego. I'm so sorry, Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Abednego, but a viewer wants to contribute to the program. He's come on, Mr. George in Lagos. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to the guest.
Yes, Dr. Abednego.
I've heard about this crime prevention strategy being done by Bayelsa State. And I asked a friend who is from Bayelsa. He told me that it is largely successful because Bayelsa is a monolithic state. Almost everybody is a judge. They are able to talk at the same wavelength to their people and all that. So I wanted to find out from the gentleman there.
Dr. Abednego.
Yes. Yes. Have they had experiences of the outfit misbehaving, abusing people, or going out of line, going out of approved ethics, like we saw in Anambra? You see them beating men, 5 men beating a woman in public and stripping her. Has something like that happened in Bayelsa since this system came to place?
Okay.
That's number one. Okay, already. The second thing I want to say on this is Now, many states are craving for state police. I am thinking that a model like this should first be tried. If it can work in one state, why can't it work in other states? I've listened to, they have applied a lot of technology into it that makes crime more difficult for criminals to commit. So if it can be done in one state, why can't other states start with this if we start trying for state police?
Okay, all right.
That's the question.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Bendigo?
Yeah, I think it's very important to say it for free that Bayelsa volunteer security outfits and the Bayelsa State Safety Peace Corps, Community Peace Corps, are largely organizations that are people-oriented, and they act on the principles of good conscience. And that is why you can't hear any story anywhere that governments the government of the state use these outfits to molest, to intimidate, to oppress, or to witch hunt opposition. No, this organization belongs to the people.
But how about the discipline? How about the discipline of the organization itself?
That is where I'm going.
Okay.
That is where I'm going. That's where I'm going. The discipline of personnel of these two outfits is something that's not just Bayelsans, but security agencies are very proud of. Folks who are doing business in Bayelsa State will tell you that, look, the glory days of, just struggles of crises and all whatnot, is totally out of relevance because we have an outfit that makes everyone belong to the system, that sees everyone as equals. The operators of the system are not superhuman beings. They are human beings like every other person. And the reason for the government setting up this organization is to ensure that everyone lives a peaceful life. And that's why I did say a moment ago that it does not matter what color of your skin, what religion you belong, what tongue you speak, or what community you come from. The first thing is, this is an organization that respects human values. And so we continue to say that one of the fundamental principles of good governance is about inclusivity, about fundamental, respect for human rights, about transparency, what the Bayelsa volunteer can do, what the Bayelsa State Peace and Safety Corps can do. These are things that are known by the people. And anytime you are doing a thing out of that, the people will not keep quiet. They will call it to order. The question is, have we been able to see one or two situations of indiscipline? And what did we do? The answer is very simple. Everything that is done that is contrary to the principle that enabled the establishment of this organization will be dealt with in accordance with the provisions of law. So if you think a neighborhood organization and you contravene the principles of good conscience, you will be arrested by the same police you're working with, and the next day you'll be in court for prosecution.
Okay, let me bring in, I beg your pardon, sir, for interrupting you. Let me bring in Joshua in Ogun State, who has been waiting to join the program. Good morning, Mr. Joshua. Please continue. I understand that we lost that call. Should he call back, let me just sort of apologize in advance. I'll come to him straight away so he can contribute to what everybody wants to know about what's going on in Bayelsa.
So the situation in Bayelsa State is quite a wonderful masterpiece that all states in the country need to come and study what the Diri has been doing in terms of crime fighting in Bayelsa State.
I got another guest. Mazi Okorafor has called in. Mazi, good morning.
Good morning.
Mazi Okorafor, you have been put on. Good morning.
Good morning, Sayuri.
Good morning.
See, when we talk about this security network, whether we are bringing state police or local government police or community police, to solve the security of the state, that one is not. But what we should talk about is both kinetic and non-kinetic theory to solve the problem. And our traditional rulers, they have a role to play, because 70% of traditional, they are not playing any role. Because one, if somebody comes to a place to take a house or to buy a land, the community or the land speculator is head of that place, the traditional ruler or the chief should know. It will help us. Because it's a whereby one come to a place and settle down and start gradually building or is building around before you talk about everything. To gather so many criminals carry them before they explode. That is the problem we're having. And even the youth are not helping matters. Honestly speaking, because our youth, they say, it's not my job, and you know what is hungry. What is hungry? You have to secure your place. Talk about food.
But Mazi Okorafo, but the technical advisor is actually reporting successes and that bad behavior has gone down, noticeably. And that it's a far different cry from what you might have known of Bayelsa 3-4 years ago. That's the report that the technical advisor is Dr. Abednego is favoring us with this morning.
Whether the special advisor is telling us the soup, well, nobody will say that his mother's soup is not good. But what I'm saying is that let's generalize that not only in Bayelsa, they have River State, they have Edo State, they have Delta State gathering them, and they have riverine areas. Now, how protective is the riverine area?
Okay. Okay. All right.
I said there's no piracy in terms of riverine areas, and you see that place protected.
Okay.
Let me give you an example.
All right.
Let me just 1 minute.
Oh, so sorry. Dr. Verada, is it? Okay. Okay.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, Mazi, but we wanted to give the, technical advisor a chance to respond. So sorry.
But let me just 1 minute. The man said that as he was coming back from his place, that the bossman was looking for a passenger. That's why we have to go to Bayelsa, passing Bayelsa to Owerri. The man knows the road and from Bayelsa coming to Port Harcourt to Owerri. That he was robbed. I said how? That when the driver left the place, that he was carrying only 4 or 5 passengers. How many so to correct for the 40 passengers that was picking passengers on the road? At the end of the day, the man was saying before he was shooting that one of the toilets will use rubber, that they collected everything from them. And we said that everywhere is safe. So that is that in as much as the government is doing the needful. At least after those incidents of them, we have not been hearing that people killing Bayelsa. Government is doing well. But so that we need more.
Okay. Thank you, Mazi, because where you landed is good. But Dr. Abednego, is it true that your dear mother's soup is sweet? And that's what would we expect you to say, if not that her soup is the sweetest?
I think it's important to mention that what we are saying about Bayelsa State in terms of crime fighting and indeed infrastructural development is not about what we are saying. It's about what is happening on ground. When we talk about the uncommon peace successes that we've made in Bayelsa State, we are not the people saying it. The Office of the National Security Advisor can allude to the fact that if there is a state that is truly peaceful, it's Bayelsa State. Okay. Folks who are doing business in Bayelsa State, they are not politicians, so they can't talk from both sides of the mouth. But our Igbo brothers, Yoruba brothers, Hausa brothers who are doing business in Bayelsa State, they are saying it for free, that they've never had a Bayelsa so peaceful. The reason is crime fighting is a responsibility of all persons, and therefore it does not matter where you come from. And one thing that is very important, and it's good to mention, is that even in the civilized Western climes, the United Kingdom, USA, France, etc., you see situations where once in a while a crime takes place, and you see the response of the security organizations. There in Bayelsa State, we don't want situations to arise. Much of what we do is proactive crime fighting. We prevent crimes from happening, but because it's difficult to predict the heart of a man, sometimes, and once in a while, it does happen. But the thing is, if you think you will undermine the system by being that one in a situation, perpetrator, if you do it, it will come after you. And we will not come after you in a brutal way. We don't apply, crude methods in crime fighting. What we do is, we are going to pick you very peacefully. Your neighbors will pick
surgically.
You. And the government has
with surgical precision.
Consistently that look. What?
You give the impression that it will be done with surgical precision.
Yes, with surgical precision. Yeah, exactly, because what we do is to ensure, one, if a crime is committed in an environment, bystanders must not be affected because a crime was committed in the course of wanting to apprehend the person. The apprehension of the person must be done in the most civilized way and with a zero kinetic arrangement. It's been working, and I can tell you that security organizations will tell you They can't remember the last time they made use of their weapons. The
Okay.
reason being that, yes, one or two crimes may have been committed, but the people are just picked because the collaboration and partnership between the people and security organizations has been top-notch. It's working, will sustain it, and will make Bayelsa State always remain the model of crime fighting as far as security matters are concerned in this country.
Okay, I got a based crime prevention strategy of the Bayelsa State government, led, of course, by Senator Diri, the governor of Bayelsa State. And our guest is Dr. Everada Don Abednego, technical advisor on communications and strategy to the Bayelsa State governor. Now, you were saying security, you know, it's like you've covered the ground, and but it's not easy to know the heart of man. We were talking about infrastructure. I want to talk a bit more about attacks on infrastructure, just a bit, because I've noticed that what is the nature of such attacks? Is it public bridges? Is it light fittings? In Lagos here, for instance, where we are broadcasting from southwest of the country, many Lagosians will notice that the aluminum railings on the bridges are stolen in broad daylight. How that could happen? The kind of operation that would be necessary to stay there, dismantle those things and take them away, but so much so that many bridges in Lagos are now cuckoo. What they're doing is that they're replacing those aluminum structures with concrete ones. They're just molding concrete on top. So that is as bad as it was in Lagos. It's a pretty decent design, but it just goes to show you the frustration that sometimes authorities are facing. What's the nature of the attack on public structures in Bayelsa that hopefully has been, covered now?
Yeah, I think it's important that I don't do things that will demarcate my state or demarcate the job people. But truth be told, a couple of years ago, it used to be a very gory situation where crico-terrorist activities thrived in Bayelsa State and most Ijaw communities. It is also true that issues of sea piracy and destruction of critical assets of government, specifically pipeline vandalism, was very
that's a major headache.
And of course, we also had bunkery and all whatnot. But I can say it for the right reason. This is a global spectrum, platform that I'm talking here. So everything we say has to be a reflection of reality on ground, because people can fast check what we are saying and they can come out with positions that are a reflection of the site, and if it is contrary to our views. Look, in Bayelsa States, critical assets of government are 100% protected. 100% protected because what we used to hear before that, a pipeline has been destroyed or blown up because some folks went to carry out illegal bunkering activity, it has stopped.
Okay.
You cannot see a situation where young folks will say, okay, we have gone to destroy a platform because we want to do X, Y, Z things. Nobody destroys oil platforms in Bayelsa State anymore. The reason is because everyone understands for bridges to be built in Bayelsa State, we must ensure that there is peace in Bayelsa State. We must ensure we protect critical assets of government so that oil revenue will grow. When it grows, when it gets up, and then the emolument that comes from the federation account to the state as statutory allocation will be fat enough for us to construct those bridges, for us to build those roads. Remember, our terrain is quite a difficult one.
Indeed.
To build 1 kilometer of road in Bayelsa State can be compared, without bias, to about 15, 20 kilometers of road
Elsewhere.
in Kano. Including in Lagos,
I
and
get
especially
you.
in Abuja, it can be like 30 kilometers.
I get you, but
Now,
I've got to jump in. I beg your pardon. I really must jump in. Sorry, doctor, I beg your pardon for my doing so, but I really must jump in because Alhaji Subaya in Lagos is also anxious to join the program. So before I lose him, let me, hear his presentation. Good morning, Alhaji Subaya.
Hello, Mr. Yori, good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead now.
Yeah, Mr. Yori, good morning, and good morning to your guests.
Good morning, Alhaji Subaya. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me appreciate, let us appreciate the governor of Bayelsa State, because if some people, if somebody is putting it in a place, and is concerned about his people, we need to give kudos to him. The reason I'm saying is this. You see, the president of Nigeria, he said it emphatically. He said, hold your governor responsible. He has the reason why he's saying this. Because of the voluminous of money, being put into the state. So the community has to have a kind of reflection. I think that is why I'm giving kudos to the Bayelsa State government, for what it's doing in terms of community-based crime prevention. You understand? And you remember, Mr. Ayori, I want to give you a kind of scenario. In Kwara State, around last week, some community was driven away from their base. And up to now, we didn't hear anything from the governor of Kwara State, Abdul Rahman. You understand? So these are look, these are the kind of thing I'm talking about. Now, how much you are buying a tube of yam? You already know how much you are buying. If community does not have access to their land or farming, so what is going to be the end result? It's inflation. That is the basic truth. You understand? So we must commend the governor that is concerned about his people, and these are the governor that are more closer to their people, and that is exactly what the president is doing. So kudos again to the governor for introducing that community-based community-based crime prevention.
Okay. Kudos to
I'm concerned about.
Kudos to Dr. Diri there.
It's an issue, to Nigeria, to every aspect of Nigeria. If there's no peace, there's no everybody. If people are not safe, so what do we expect? So it's a problem. So this issue of crime must be handled seriously.
All right. Thank you very much, Alaji. Alaji, I really appreciate your calling in. Thank you very much, Alaji. Appreciate your calling in. Thank you very much. And, this sort of leads neatly on, Dr. Abednego. And I do want you to talk a bit about the National Sports Commission visit, because it's linked. There's a linkage between it and security. They wouldn't be there looking to talk about the organization of a sporting festival that would bring people together if it wasn't safe. Talk to us about that. National Sports Commission and its the reason for its visit.
First, I want to commend the last caller for alluding to the fact that the governor of Bayelsa State.
That is Alhaji Subaya.
Needs to be truly commended. It's a beautiful one. He's a good ambassador of our state. But having said that, it's important to mention that sports remains a veritable instrument for national unity. And any state that is doing exceptionally well in sports should also have the opportunity to have a taste of hosting the National Sports Festival. Much so, Bayelsa State was created in 1996, and from 1996 to date, we haven't had the opportunity to host the National Sports Festival. But the question that comes to mind is, in terms of contribution to national growth in sports development, where does Bayelsa State stand?
Where?
And we can say it for the right reasons, that Bayelsa State has been very consistent in showing leadership in terms of sports development and winning laurels for this country, whether it's from the Olympics, whether you talk about national sports festivals like the one that was
it's
just
a sporting
done in Ogun
state.
Everyone
it's a sporting
felt that,
state.
How can a small state like Bayelsa State become a leading state in terms of laurels? But you see, these things don't just happen by chance. They happen so because we are making the right investments in sports development. For us to have it peacefully or have peace in Bayelsa State, we understand that crimes are mostly committed by young folks. We have been able to take away our young boys and girls from vices to moments of real engagement by building capacity in their minds.
Okay, that's great to hear, but I must interrupt you again. I'm so sorry about this. I must interrupt you. Dr. Abednego, forgive my doing so. I must interrupt you again. I'm so sorry. And that's because the call that we had earlier that was dropped has come back. Joshua in Ogun State. Good morning to you, sir.
Okay, good morning. And sorry to Dr. Abednego. I think he should be used to our program. Sorry for interrupting him. But the scorecard for Bayelsa is quite impressive. I'm sure you know that we just had that of Kaduna too, which we also spoke to. Now that means that states are beginning to evolve into taking responsibility for their own security. So this conversation you are having is hitting a very big point. Nigeria, which we need to escalate. That's they are the chief executive of their state. We see we have a country where everybody goes to the president. But the executive governors are very powerful. Now we have the Governors Forum, for example. Our Governors Forum is a powerful organ in Nigeria today. Now, when a governor is succeeding, why don't they cooperate? Governors and
well, I'm sorry, but the network is not all that it could be. But we did hear you give good kudos to Bayelsa State Governor Senator Diri, saying that to whom much has been given, much can be expected. And indeed, we are seeing the result of what he has been able to do. Sorry for interrupting you, but the night wasn't the best that it could be. Now, you were speaking about the involvement of the youth in sports and the fact that Bayelsa is a sporting state, so much so that National Sports Festival seems to be in the offing, which is the greatest PR that one can think of. You come to a place, there will not be any sporting festival if there is not security and peace in the place. So continue on that line, please. How close are we? Bayelsa has bid for that event. Do you think the chances are good that Bayelsa will get the nod from the National Sports Commission? Or is it a done deal?
Yeah, I think it's beyond expectation. What we have now and what we believe as Bayelsans, and indeed the entire Ijaw nation, is that come 2027-28 National Sports Festival, Bayelsa State is going to hoist the flag of sports in this country. The reason being that there are fundamental criteria for a state to be given the hosted rights. The first one is peace and tranquility. And it is true, after all, that Bayelsa State today is the most peaceful state in the country. We are going to sustain that, not just up to 2027-28, but we will sustain it for continuity. Any governor that comes to succeed Governor Diri will understand the imperative need for sustaining peace to ensure the enduring development of the state. That's number one. Number two, critical infrastructural development. You see, you cannot have a national sports festival hosted in a state where the facilities are not there. And let me let the cat out of the bag for the right reasons. Okay. We are going to have an uncommon Olympic-sized stadium in Bayelsa State before the commencement of the sports festival, National Sports Festival in 2027-28. The Bayelsa State government is building a 35,000 capacity Olympic-sized stadium. You know what that means? It's not a political project. As I'm speaking to you now, those who are listening from far and near, please send folks to go and confirm what is happening in Bayelsa State. It's a government that speaks on the basis of frugality and transparency. And when you go there, you see that the company is continuing to work day and night because they've given the state government a timeline. I was there 2 days, particularly on Saturday, to see things for myself again before coming here to talk on national television. And in fact, what I saw marveled me, just like the Director General of the National Sports Commission went there with the entire echelon of the National Sports Federation in the country. And look at what he said. Number one, he said, what I've seen in Bayelsa State, including in the nights, is that there isn't a state in this country that is as peaceful as Bayelsa State. He said he had to also go out in the night against former advices that, Bayelsa State is a dangerous place. He said what he heard from afar about the peaceful status of Bayelsa State is largely underreported, that Bayelsa State truly is peaceful. That's one. Number two, he said he's been able to go around and see the critical infrastructural development in terms of sports. He did say, like we know, that what Bayelsa State has as an edifice for table tennis isn't found anywhere in the country. And you know what? The Olympic-sized stadium that we're building is going to have virtually every front of sporting activities in the country. And he did say this, and let me quote his words. He said, what I saw on ground at the construction of the Olympic-sized stadium in Bayelsa State makes me realize that certain things are certainly realizable, but leaders in this country sometimes are walking away from things that are doable, that he commends the Bayelsa State government in all the things they've seen in terms of competence and readiness to host the National Sports Festival 2027-28. He did say that, oh, how you wish the thing is even now, and he will say that Bayelsa State is almost ready. This is what happened in Qatar, when Qatar wanted to host the World Cup, and people said, oh, a place like Qatar, how can they do it? And the Qatarian government said, look, come to Qatar and see things for yourself. The world went, they saw, and at the end of the day, that was one of the best World Cups. Look, what we will see in 2027-28 National Sports Festival in Bayelsa State is going to be a standard that is going to live in the memories of this country for a very long time, because it is not just the critical infrastructure that you're going to see. You're going to see the uncommon cultural heritage of our people, the cuisines, the tourism sites that people will go and see. Please, wherever you are in this country, including folks who are in diaspora, come to Bayelsa State 2027-28 and you visit places that will make you write a new history about this country, not just for peace, but about the abundance of culture.
Dr. Abednego, you're a man of passion. You're passionate about your beloved Bayelsa State and its achievements. And I thank you. I thank you very much for projecting that, because it has given a different narrative and a perspective to those that might be far away from Bayelsa State. And as you said, go and verify. Anybody listening to you, come to Bayelsa and come and verify this stuff. I want to thank you very much. I can see that there's a lot more there where what you've told us has been coming from. So thank you very much, Dr. Everada Don Abednego, Technical Advisor on Communications and Strategy to the Bayelsa State Governor, Senator Diri. Thank you very much for coming on our program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And on behalf of the people of Bayelsa State, I extend our very warm felicitation to your station and all Nigerians. And be ready, embrace peace and tranquility. When that is possible, then development is certain. The security challenges we are having in this country, please, let's